We're going to talk about how to apply ointments without creating an issue to your wound. So if you've got a wound, it's probably not on your hand, maybe it's on an incision or something like that, somewhere on your body, a scrape, whatever. We're going to talk about how to apply ointments. So take a look so you can see how I would do it myself. So first, I'm going to clean whatever surface I've got and just disinfect. One of the big things is avoiding infection. So we don't want to give bacteria a place to grow. If this wasn't on my hand, I'd be either washing my hands or using some kind of hand sanitizer. Now you're dressing your own wound, you don't necessarily need to use gloves, especially if you're cleaning your hands. But if you're doing this on someone else, get yourself a pair of gloves. And one of the big problems with like jars of ointments is like bacteria in there. So you really don't want to be like sticking your finger in a jar or even taking an ointment and like rubbing it on your skin. Now you're creating an area where you've got potential bacteria going on here. So we don't really want to be touching this to the surface and then putting it back together. That's a no-no. So what you can do is you've cleaned your area. You can always re-clean. And let's say you're gonna put a bandage on your area. So the inside, the packaging is sterile. Once you open it, it's not. But you can use the inside of a package to put some ointment on there. So you can open it up. And I'm gonna prep up all my things first. All right, so now this is sterile. As long as you don't start touching it, it's sterile. And you can take your ointment and put a little on there. I'm just gonna let it drop out, but I didn't touch it. And I'm gonna make sure my wound is clean. So I'll clean my wound. I like a wound cleanser, not an antiseptic. I'll have links to everything below. And I would either let it dry a little bit or I'd use gauze around the outside to clean the outside. Make sure that it's kind of dry on the outside so that the bandage can stick. Now you can leave whatever moisture you have going on from the wound cleanser is probably fine to leave right on that wound bed. Now to apply the ointment, we don't want to do is squirt it onto the, we don't want to do a couple of things actually. So one, we don't want to touch that ointment to our wound bed directly and then smush a bandage on there. The other thing we really don't want to do is to put it on the Band-Aid, right? Like, assume that's bigger. We don't want to put it on the Band-Aid and then put it on because what, like, you know, we've all been in this situation before where we've got a big gloopy mess coming out of our wound or our bandage. That's not good. And plus we've used too much and it's kind of everywhere, right? Now it's on that intact skin. That's going to potentially create more breakdown. So you really don't need to be that liberal with this stuff. You can use a Q-tip. And just lightly get some only in that open area. Now, how do you know what's open and what's not? Usually there is like a little bit of a silvery hue to the outer edge. You don't need to put it out there. You really don't need to like go like this or anything. That's too much. Now let's say you've done this and then you realize you need more. Well, we don't want to double dip this back in. We're actually going to use a new Q-tip. So we'll start over. So we'll clean our wound, dry off the edges, and then we'll take our Q-tip. I might need a little more than that. So, you know, take what you think you need and try to get just in that border. Just like that. Now we've kind of kept it in the border, and we would be safe to go ahead and apply our Band-Aid. And leave it and change it. Only really, a lot of these bandages have a little bit of an absorptive quality to them. I like something that's bordered on all four sides so that we're not getting air at the edges. Sometimes you can get, if you've got a bigger wound, you can get something with a bigger border, which is fantastic. These also can come, let's say you have a tummy tuck incision or something else going on. They do come in longer strips as well. So I'll have a bunch of links, check the links below or wherever you're seeing this video, but you would go ahead and find a bandage that's gonna cover the whole thing. These I really like, they have like a kinesio tape backing to them, so they really do stick on well and kind of last throughout the whole day. If you don't have a lot of drainage coming through the top of this when it's on, you can leave it on for up to a day, 2 days. As long as the seal is good and what you're putting on there is appropriate, you should be good to let it go for a little bit longer. If you're really not sure what you're supposed to be putting on your wound, you can reach out to me, betterwounds.com. So that's great for this. Now something like this, that is more like a dry closed incision, right? This is where it gets a little tricky. If we add too much moisture to this, we can cause it to open up. So we really don't want to be glopping it on like this. We may just leave it alone and put a dry cover dressing on it. Just cleanse, you can use a cleanser, you know, after you're out and about or after your shower, you can use a wound cleanser and then just let it dry and put a cover on it. As long as that stays intact and looks good, perfect. When do you leave it open to air? When the scab all comes off and there's no little open areas, that's when you can start leaving it open to air. That's when you can start using some scar products. But for now, I would probably pad it and protect it for the most part. If anything, you can use, if it looks like it's dry and cracking, like on the edges, that's all portals for infection. So you can add like an oil or something onto that. That will help to moisturize the skin a little bit. And then you can like kind of leave it open for a minute until it all soaks in so you don't create a mess, and then cover it up. So those are my tips on how to use ointments to dress your wounds. If you have any questions, reach out, betterwounds.com. Check the links below.